Hi everybody. I wanted to do a little talk about Gurdjieff's discussion of higher centers and our higher selves, because I've talked a lot about how we're trying to get to them higher centers, to contact them higher centers, and the point is to develop ourselves so that we can reach them and speak to them. And them higher centers, I'm pretty sure, are in contact with the divine. And at the moment, we're living in our lower centers, which is not so uh, connected with the divine. There's a chance there if we work on ourselves. We're living in our lower centers, we're kind of asleep, and we're trying to wake up. Obviously, that's why we're doing this work. We've got that kernel in us that wants us to go forward and develop ourselves. So I'm going to do some quotes from All and Everything, where obviously he's talking about higher centers and higher being bodies. So page 194 of All and Everything. Your nose and the organs connected with it are so adapted that you may take in and transform in yourself those world substances by which they are coated in the free brain beings similar to yourself, both higher being bodies, on one of which rests the hope of our common all-embracing Creator for help in his needs, for the purpose of actualizations foreseen by him for the good of everything existing. You were created also as a field of hope for the future expectations of our common all-gracious Creator. That is to say, created with the possibilities of coating in your presence that higher sacred for the possible arising of which the whole of our now existing world was just created. So we've got to create that higher sacred. We've got to create ourselves that higher being body for us to go into. I've done a show on the Keshjan body, which we have to create for our soul to go into, and we can have that Keshjan body when we're alive and when we've passed on and died. And having them bodies, we then start working with the divine and doing the divine's wishes. Where when we're not doing that, when we're just living this life, it's all about ourselves. Maybe that's what we want to be. Maybe you just want it to be about yourself and not move on, and instead just live your life in your egotistic way and then die and come back again in the recurrent cycle. Who knows what you want to do? This has got to be something you've got to really think about. Do you want to develop yourself to be able to become that more enlightened person, to go on to that higher realm, to become that higher version of yourself, so that you're connected to the higher sacred vibrations and the higher sacred ways of being, so that you're doing the divine's work? And it doesn't have to be doing that just because you want to please God. You should be doing it because you want to do it. It's got to be an inner thing, an inner wish, an inner need. And at the moment, is that Gurdjieff says the data within us has not crystallized for the divine impulse of objective conscience. And that's what we're trying to get, the objective conscience. While we're living in our lower being, our lower selves, we're working towards subjective conscience so that we can work on ourselves, so that we can start realizing what objective conscience is. And as I've said in many shows, many people don't have conscience. Many people ignore their conscience, that little voice on their shoulder that's telling them right and wrong. Conscience is the divine spark within us, and we want to connect with the divine, so we must listen to that conscience within us. So, All and Everything, page 362. The first highest kind of being reason is the pure or objective reason, which is proper only to the presence of a higher being body, or to the common presences of the bodies themselves of those free brain beings in whom this higher part has already arisen and perfected itself. And then only when it is the center of gravity, initiator of the individual functioning of the whole presence of the being. So by working on this, we can then start getting the roles happening, that I within us that wants to do this, to take control and change ourselves, improve ourselves would be a better word. We want to do this. We want to be genuine I, real I. So All and Everything, page 369. The cells of the head brain actualize for the whole presence of each of them exactly such a purpose as is fulfilled at the present time by the higher perfected bodies of free brain beings from the whole of our great universe, who've already united themselves with the most holy Sun Absolute or Protocosmos. So once we start developing ourselves and get in touch with that higher center of ourselves, and we've developed that higher version of ourselves, we're in touch with the Holy Sun Absolute. We're in touch with the divine. What a glory that would be. Glory, glory, holy, holy, as the angels would say. So page 780, all and everything. So the free brain beings of the planet Earth are not only, as we also are, and this is Beelzebub talking here, obviously to his grandson, and they are slightly different to us humans, but they're still free brain beings. So the free brain beings of the planet Earth are not only, as we also are, apparatuses for the transformation of the cosmic substances required for the most great Trog auto-ego-crat, with the qualities of all the free forces of the fundamental common cosmic trio Mazikamno, but also themselves absorbing these substances for transformation from free different sources of independent arisings, have all the possibilities of assimilating besides the substances necessary for the maintenance of their own existence, also those substances which go for the coating and perfecting of their own higher being bodies. So as we work on ourselves, we are developing those higher being bodies, which is why it takes effort. We must keep doing it constantly. You know, we slip and fall now and then, but we need to get back up on that ladder and keep developing ourselves. So page 794. These favourites of yours, us, particularly the contemporary, today's, cease to use these sacred substances inevitably formed in them, consciously for the coating and perfection of their higher parts, as well as for their being duty foreseen by nature herself, which consists in the continuation of their species. And I did a show, I think it was yesterday's one actually, when I went on a rant about nature. You know, nature's part of the cosmos, part of the universe, part of the laws and the harmony. So we need to be able to work with it all. And by developing ourselves, we become more attuned to it and we start understanding. We start seeing, recognizing what it is we need to do. Our conscience wakes up and our consciousness starts probing and doing the right thing. Now he's going to go on about impressions here. This is from Henri Trecourt. Henri Trecourt. You cannot exist 1 second without impressions. This idea is fantastic. Perhaps it demands a lifetime to understand what it means. It is closely related to another idea which very largely escapes us, and which is that only higher centers can really receive properly the food of impressions. Higher centers, and it is said that higher centers are fully developed in a human being. They function perfectly well. What is missing is the proper link with lower centers. In Beelzebub, Mr. Gurdjieff speaks of what happens to this finer food of impressions. Most of it is lost, but part of it is always maintained and perceived and absorbed for the development of higher components of a being. And I've noticed in many traditions that talk about higher centers, and we've got higher versions of ourselves, whether it's a holy angel that's watching over you, is that a higher version of yourself? They're always trying to contact us. They're always sending the vibrations down. We need to reach up to receive them. When we're closed off, we can't feel or hear or see it. We need to work on ourselves to open ourselves up to becoming tuned with the vibrations they're bringing down to us or sending down to us. You know, it's like our lower self is asleep, and we need to wake it up so that it can be awake with our higher self. So views from the real world, page 194. The secret of being able to assimilate the involving part of air is to try to realize your true significance and the true significance of those around you. And this is part of what I was saying earlier about when you start waking up and using your conscience and your consciousness, you start being aware and awake of what's going on around you. And realizing the true significance of everything and what you can do. You know, it's like having the veil lifted. In magic, it's all about lifting the veil of Isis. You know, and this kind of work helps lift that veil so you really see what's going on. And sometimes it's a shock. You know, we want to go back to sleep because it was nice and easy being asleep. But once you've had a little look, a little peek, it's very hard to go back to sleep. You have to really switch yourself off to go back to sleep. Even though it's hard work and it looks terrifying, there's others out there that are still doing this work as well. You are not alone. We can do this. We can work on ourselves, and these books really encourage you to do it. So we've got In Search of the Miraculous. Ouspensky is going to talk about the bodies now. So these four bodies are defined in different teachings in various ways. The first is the physical, carnal body, the carriage. The second is the natural body, the horse, the feelings, the desires. Oh yeah, because Gurdjieff, Ouspensky's putting this to the horse and carriage, an analogy that I've brought up quite a few times. Your astral body, the third spiritual body, is the driver, the mind, the mental body. I'm reading this all out of sync, I think. Right, okay, so we've got the first is the physical, the second is the natural body, the third is the spiritual body, the fourth is the causal body, the divine body, the master, the I. Man is not born with the finer bodies. His physical body possesses all the functions necessary for life. A man without astral body may even produce the impression of being very intellectual or even spiritual man, and may deceive not only others but also himself. So we want to get all our bodies in sync. We want to develop all our bodies so they work harmoniously together. So in Search of the Miraculous, page 92, in a man with two bodies, the second body is active in relation to the physical body. This means that the consciousness in the astral body may have power over the physical body. So the consciousness in the astral body may have power over the physical body. We need to start developing all these different bodies. There are two other centers in man, the higher emotional and the higher thinking up here. And then we've got the emotional and the thinking lower centers. These centers are in us. They are fully developed and are working all the time, but their work fails to reach our ordinary consciousness. The cause of this lies in the special properties of our so-called clear consciousness. So, all the fine substances necessary for the growth and feeding of the higher bodies must be produced within the physical organism, us, and the physical organism is able to produce them provided the human factory is working properly and economically. So we've got to work on ourselves. You know, this is what all this is about, working on our physical body, our emotional body, our intelligent body centers, get them all aligned so that we can then work with the other bodies that we have. It's not just us on this physical earth. We have other bodies within us. We have the astral body, the causal body, and the the organic body. That's the four. And Ouspensky goes on, page 197, in Search of the Miraculous. The astral body is necessary for the complete and proper functioning of the higher emotional center in unison with the lower. The centers could be compared to machines working on fuels of different qualities, which it is. You know, the intelligence center works on a different fuel of the emotional center and a different fuel to what the physical center is doing. We need to get them all balanced and fed properly so that they can all work together. You're in Search of the Miraculous, page 194. Where is it? So he's talking about hydrogens, and hydrogens comes up a lot in this work. In those cases where the work of the emotional center reaches the intensity and speed of existence, which is given by hydrogen 12, a temporary connection with the higher emotional center takes place. A man experiences new emotions, new impressions hitherto unknown to him, for the description of which he has neither words nor expressions. And Ouspensky says this, when you start reaching them higher centers, it's very hard to explain because no words explains it. So we've got to work on our bodies so we can get to them higher centers. Good luck, everybody, and see you in the astral world.